Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Emmanuel, one of your counselors, asked me to come and speak to you this evening. And I asked him, well, just what kind of kids am I going to be speaking to? And he told me, the future leaders of the world. He said, when you look out on the crowd, you're going to be seeing the future teachers, doctors, lawyers. He said, and there even is going to be a president and a supreme justice out there too. And you know what? While I'm looking out here, he was right. And thank you very much for letting me come to speak to you this evening. And what I want to do is I want to tell you about someone else who was great. And this was someone who looked just like you and me. She lived about 100 years ago, and her name was Bessie Coleman. Now, Bessie Coleman was the first African-American licensed flyer pilot. She was born in 1892 in a little city in Atlanta, Texas. She was 10 out of 13 children. They lived on the farm. Work was hard, dirty, and long. Her mother was African American and her father was American Indian. He could not deal with the racial prejudice of that day and moved away to Oklahoma, leaving his family and his children. Bessie had to work hard to take care of her younger sisters. She picked cotton every day, putting the little pieces in her bale, and she would help her mother wash clothes. It wasn't like they could go to the laundromat. I mean, she was at the stream. She had the clothes on the washboard. She had to hang them on the line and then take a hot iron that had been sitting in the fire and press the clothes down. But every evening she would go out into the pasture and she would look up into the sky and she said, I want to be like those birds. I want to fly. She worked hard in school. She was a very good student. In fact, she worked so hard that she was able to go to college. However, after one semester, money ran out and she had to return home. But she knew she was greatness, and she knew that she was going to do something unique. And so after 20 years, she returned, or rather she went to Chicago to be with her brothers. Well, Bessie was a sassy little girl, cute. And she got a job working in a barber shop. And she would manicure nails. And while she talked, she would talk to the men. Now, this was after World War I. And so people were coming in, they were talking about the war, they were talking about flying, and they even talked about the French women who flew in the war. And Bessie said to herself, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to become. Now you can imagine, people were saying to her, girl, ain't no white man gonna let you fly that plane. You need to get married and have babies. What's wrong with you? Bessie knew she was for greatness. She wanted to fly, and she wanted to be unique. But no school in America would allow a black and a female to be admitted. She wondered, as she did the nails, what was she going to do? And someone suggested to her, go to France. They have women flyers there. You can become a flyer. But Bessie didn't know French. Bessie worked hard and she saved her money and she went to school at night and learned French. Then she went on and saved her money again. And she had enough money to cross the ocean on the liner. And she attended a flying school in France. She completed the 10-month program in 7 months and became the first African-American pilot to have a license. I said pilot, I didn't say woman. First African-American pilot. When Bessie came back to the United States, however, there were no jobs for pilots. We didn't have commercial flights at the time. There weren't planes flying from city to city, state to state. The only way that she could get a job was as a stunts pilot, which meant she had to go back to Europe and study some more. This time not only in France, but also in Germany. Betsy came back to the States in 1922, and she became a stunts pilot. They called them barnstormers. She would go up into skies, and she would make figure eights, and she would loop tailspins, and even ride the plane through the barn. Oh, she would just put on shows before 2,000, 3,000 people. She continued to do this. But she wasn't finished yet, because she knew she was great. She was born for something else. She wanted to build a school so other African Americans could become pilots. She continued to work hard. She traveled throughout the country. She lectured. She gave exhibitions. She was a proud black woman who had become something unique, and she was flying with the birds. They wanted her to make movies. And when she went in, they wanted her to dress in tattered clothes and act baboonish. She said no and walked out. She wouldn't perform unless the blacks and the whites could walk in the same door. In 1926, in April, Bessie and her mechanic went up into the airplane. They were practicing for the air show the next day. And they were going to do the loops and the turnovers and the somersaults. And Bessie left her belt unbuckled because she would need to see over the plane to see just where she was going to land and what have you. And what happened was that the wrench that her mechanic left in the plane, as the plane was just turning and flipping, it went into the gearbox that was uncovered during those days. The plane went into its tailspin, and the mechanic couldn't get it out. The plane turned over, and Bessie fell 500 feet to her death. The mechanic still couldn't get control of the plane, and it hit the ground and burned. Bessie had a short life, but Bessie was doing what she wanted to do, and she had flown with the birds. She had made a mark on the world. She was an inspiration and motivation. In fact, the words that were dedicated to her. Because of Bessie Coleman, we have overcome the barriers, that which was worse than racial barriers. We have overcome the barriers within ourselves and dared to dream. Oh, so kings and princes out there, kings, queens, princes, princesses. My message to you is dare to dream. Become like Bessie Coleman. Let nothing hinder you. Fly, fly with the birds.
Okay.